let's talk about AI a little bit. And it's a fascinating subject. It's, you know, one of the #1 subjects in the world in general. But in security, it's very interesting. So, you know, you may have heard of a company called NVIDIA. And they make, you know, I know NVIDIA from the old days where they made graphics processors for your good video games. You know, you wanted NVIDIA because you got fast graphics for really good video games. Well, they've become one of the most valuable companies in the world. I think they're in the top 4. And the reason is because they've dominated the market for the chips that are needed for doing AI. And they've come from being, you know, video game GPU company to being an AI company that is now competing with Amazon AWS in terms of providing data centers with all their NVIDIA chips for the various AI companies. Well, in the security space, it turns out that now there are vendors that are producing specific, they're not graphics processors or just AI processors in general, they're actually chips that are being designed specifically for AI on video analytics. So you have chips that require much less energy, so they don't get as hot and they don't take as much electricity, and they're small, and they basically are great at doing video analytics, and they can put them in the cameras. So you're pushing out this AI to the small devices, and that is a huge improvement, and that's something that is already available and is being integrated into the systems now. So it's ever evolving and getting better. But in terms of like robotics, like one thing, for example, we were talking to some folks from Australia, and they're actually at the point where their police cars can have drones, where when they pull someone over, the drone deploys, flies the perimeter of the car they just pulled over, and can spot how many people are in the car and what's going on in the car and stuff before the officer even approaches. It's quite an amazing thing, and that's like already being done in Australia, and so, you know, that's stuff that's going to be coming here as well. You can imagine the application in the security industry for having, you know, if you have an area where you don't have cameras or a blind spot or someone's moving, you could deploy a drone that would follow the person, as for an example. In terms of applying this to what I mentioned before with the crime trends is, you know, in the old days when I worked patrol, you know, and I was on patrol in an industrial area, and I saw a guy walking at 3 a.m. holding up bolt cutters or a hammer, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to this guy. You know, it's an immediate stop because you know this is not right and this guy's up to something nefarious. Unfortunately today, a lot of police officers in that same position will just keep driving. Why? Because of the uncertainty. They don't know what they have. And is it, you know, do they want to, you know, go to prison because they get in a fight with this guy because they spot him with a hammer in an industrial area at 3 a.m.? You know, it's not worth it. So the advantage of these systems is they remove from the police officer's mind that uncertainty, because in real time, exactly what's happening, what the intent of the suspect is, what he's doing that is a crime, is being told to the police officer. And that is a huge benefit because it takes that uncertainty out of the equation, so it will, you know, increase the ability of law enforcement to respond aggressively.
All right.
And
well,
I want to move on to cybersecurity just briefly. So I mentioned the cybersecurity piece at the beginning, and I can't emphasize how important that is, because there's nothing worse for a security company, and this has happened to a number of security companies, where the security company becomes basically the means through which the adversary is able to commit a crime. So, you know, you don't want the bad guys to be able to hack security system which may be on your client's network and then use that hacked security system to then do a cyber crime against the protected asset. So it's a very important thing, and any good remote guarding company should have extremely strong cybersecurity protocols in place in order to ensure that that doesn't happen. And by the way, you know, don't roll your own. I always tell people there are tremendous documents available from NIST and other people like the Center for Internet Security and others that actually have very good protocols for, you know, what you need in security. So a lot of companies, they say, oh, you ask them, well, what protocol do you use? You know, what model do you use? And they say, well, we just do our own thing. It's like, that's always a bad sign. You want to make sure that people are adhering to industry protocols, and that's a very critical aspect of it.